show two people, same situation, completely different outcomes. One person gets a raise and feels richer for about 3 weeks. The other gets the same raise and quietly becomes wealthier for the rest of their life. That's the difference nobody sees. Because from the outside, both people look successful. Both work hard. Both earn more than they did a year ago. Both tell themselves they're making progress. But one is moving toward freedom. The other is running faster on the same treadmill. And here's the uncomfortable part. The gap between them has almost nothing to do with intelligence, education, luck, or even income. It comes down to something far more invisible, a way of seeing money that most people never learn. You were probably taught that money is about earning more, get a better job, work harder, build more skills, chase the next opportunity. And while none of that is wrong, it hides a truth that changes everything. Millionaires don't just behave differently around money, they understand something fundamentally different about what money actually is. The strange thing is that once you see it, you start noticing it everywhere. You'll see why some people make 6 figures and stay stressed, why others build wealth on ordinary incomes, why financial advice feels helpful for a week but somehow never changes your life, and why one simple shift in thinking creates outcomes that seem almost unfair over time. Because the biggest advantage millionaires have isn't money. It's the lens through which they look at it. And once you understand that lens, you'll never look at a paycheck the same way again. Imagine 2 friends. They're both 30 years old. Both earn roughly the same salary. Both complain about rising costs, expensive groceries, and the feeling that money disappears faster than it arrives. Every month, they have the same conversation. If I could just make a little more, everything would be easier. Then something happens. Both get promoted. More income, more opportunity, more breathing room. At least, that's what they expect. 6 months later, one of them is still stressed. The new income vanished into a nicer apartment, a newer car, more subscriptions, more convenience, more small upgrades that seemed harmless at the time. Nothing dramatic happened. That's what makes it dangerous. Life simply expanded to consume the extra money. The second friend did something less exciting. Nothing changed on the surface. No dramatic sacrifices, no obsession, no extreme budgeting, but every dollar of additional income was treated differently. Instead of asking, "What can this money buy?" they asked, "What can this money become?" That question sounds small. It's not, because that single question separates consumers from builders. Most people see money as something to spend. Millionaires see money as something to deploy. And those are completely different games. The first game gives immediate pleasure. The second game creates future freedom. You feel this conflict every time money enters your life. When a bonus arrives, when a tax refund shows up, when a bigger paycheck hits your account, part of your brain starts imagining upgrades. You deserve it. You've worked hard. You should enjoy the reward. And there's nothing wrong with enjoying life. The problem begins when every financial decision is judged only by how it improves today. Because tomorrow eventually arrives. And when it does, you discover that higher income doesn't automatically create wealth. Just like a larger bucket doesn't matter if there's still a hole in the bottom. That's the trap millions of people spend decades inside. Not because they're irresponsible, not because they're lazy, because nobody taught them that money behaves differently depending on how you think about it. And once you understand that, another uncomfortable truth appears. The real battle isn't between rich people and poor people. It's between short-term thinking and long-term thinking. That's where the game is won. Consider another contrast. 2 people receive $10,000 unexpectedly. Same amount, same opportunity. One person sees spending power. The other sees future power. The first asks, "What can I have now?" The second asks, "What can this create later?" Notice something. Neither question is about money. They're both about identity. One person sees themselves as the destination. The other sees themselves as the starting point. That's why wealth building often feels frustrating to people who focus only on tactics. They're looking for investment strategies, tax tricks, budget systems, productivity hacks. But the deeper difference starts before any of those things. It starts with perception. Millionaires understand that every dollar has 2 possible jobs. It can improve your current lifestyle, or it can purchase future options. Most people spend nearly all their money buying lifestyle. Wealthy people spend much of their money buying options. The option to leave a bad job. The option to start a business. The option to survive unexpected setbacks. The option to choose rather than react. And once you start seeing money as stored choices instead of stored purchasing power, everything changes. Suddenly, wealth isn't about showing success. It's about increasing freedom. But if that's true, then why do so many intelligent people continue making decisions that quietly destroy that freedom? Why do people who understand money on paper still struggle to build wealth in real life? The answer has nothing to do with math, and everything to do with a psychological pattern that has been controlling financial decisions for years without most people realizing it. The reason intelligent people struggle with money isn't because they don't understand numbers. It's because money decisions are rarely about numbers. They're about emotion, and emotion is fast. The root cause underneath almost every financial mistake is a simple psychological force that feels completely normal when you're experiencing it. People want relief more than they want wealth. Read that again. People want relief more than they want wealth. That's why someone who feels stressed buys something unnecessary. That's why someone who feels insecure upgrades their lifestyle. That's why someone who feels trapped reaches for instant comfort. The purchase isn't solving a financial problem. It's solving an emotional one, at least temporarily. Think about what happens when you're hungry at a grocery store. Suddenly, everything looks important. Everything feels necessary. Everything seems worth buying. But the hunger isn't changing the products. It's changing your perception. Money works the same way. When you're emotionally hungry for validation, security, status, comfort, or escape, financial decisions start looking different. You convince yourself you're making rational choices, but often you're responding to feelings. Millionaires understand this better than most people. Not because they're emotionless, because they recognize that every dollar spent is a vote for immediate relief, or a vote for future freedom. And the strange thing is that freedom rarely feels exciting in the moment. That's why so few people choose it. Buying something now creates a visible reward. Investing creates an invisible reward. One feels real today. The other becomes real later. Human beings naturally gravitate toward what they can see, which creates another hidden problem. Most people judge financial decisions by immediate outcomes. Millionaires judge financial decisions by long-term consequences. That difference sounds obvious, yet it changes everything. Imagine planting a tree. The first week looks disappointing. The second week looks disappointing. The first month looks disappointing. You water it, protect it, wait for it, and for a long time, nothing appears to happen. Then years later, it provides shade, fruit, protection, and value far beyond the effort invested. Wealth works exactly the same way. The problem is that modern life trains you to expect immediate rewards. Food arrives in minutes. Movies start instantly. Packages show up tomorrow. Information appears in seconds. Everything conditions you to expect speed. But wealth follows a different timeline, and many people quit before the results become visible. That's why millionaires often appear patient when everyone else seems rushed. They understand a truth that sounds boring until you experience it. Time is not a background factor in wealth creation. Time is the multiplier. Without time, even smart decisions struggle. With enough time, ordinary decisions become extraordinary. This is where behavior begins to matter more than knowledge. People often ask what millionaires do differently. They're usually expecting some secret investment strategy, some hidden opportunity, some exclusive information. The answer is often much simpler. Millionaires build systems that reduce the number of emotional decisions they have to make, because they understand something most people overlook. Willpower is unreliable. Identity is powerful. If every month becomes a battle between discipline and temptation, temptation eventually wins. Not because you're weak, because you're human. The people who build wealth consistently don't wake up every morning motivated. They don't feel inspired every day. They don't constantly resist temptation through sheer force. Instead, they create environments where good decisions happen automatically. Money moves before they can spend it. Investments happen before they can second-guess themselves. Long-term goals receive attention before short-term desires begin negotiating. And that's a radically different approach. Most people try to control behavior through motivation. Wealthy people often control behavior through structure. One depends on feelings, the other depends on systems, and systems keep working even when emotions don't cooperate. But here's the part nobody talks about. Building wealth isn't really about becoming rich. It's about becoming the type of person who can create wealth repeatedly, because money can disappear, skills remain, assets can lose value, thinking remains, opportunities come and go, identity stays. That's why some people lose fortunes and build them again. and why others receive financial opportunities and somehow end up back where they started. The external result changed. The internal operating system didn't. This brings us back to the question from the beginning. What do millionaires understand about money? They understand that money is rarely the goal. Freedom is the goal. Choice is the goal. Control over your time is the goal. The ability to say no is the goal. The ability to walk away is the goal. Money simply happens to be one of the tools that makes those things possible. And once you realize that, something interesting happens. The obsession with looking wealthy starts fading, because appearance and freedom are often moving in opposite directions. One person spends money to look successful. Another person quietly builds options. Years later, one still needs the next paycheck. The other owns their time. That's the contrast that matters. Not rich versus poor, not high income versus low income, not lucky versus unlucky. The real divide is between people who consume every advantage they earn and people who convert advantages into future freedom. And that's the open loop from the beginning. Why does one person get a raise and stay stuck while another gets the same raise and becomes wealthy? Because one sees money as a reward. The other sees money as a tool. One asks what money can buy. The other asks what money can become. That single shift changes decisions. Those decisions change habits. Those habits change outcomes. And those outcomes eventually look like luck to people watching from the outside. The truth is that wealth rarely arrives all at once. It arrives through hundreds of invisible choices that nobody applauds when you make them. That's why the millionaire mindset isn't really about money. It's about seeing beyond the moment. It's about understanding that today's decision is often a conversation with your future self. And every dollar you control gives that future self another option, another choice, another piece of freedom. So the next time money enters your life, don't immediately ask what it can do for you today. Ask a different question. What could this become if I gave it time? Because the answer to that question might change your financial future more than any raise, side hustle, or investment tip ever could. If this shifted the way you think about money, then you're already seeing what most people spend years missing. And once you see it, it's impossible to unsee.